going to actually take a deeper dive into the web tool review that we started last month. And we, as Sophia said, we really want some interaction from individuals in the community, SCAs, anybody who has suggestions while we're looking at this. Mary's going to be right on, hands-on, going through any questions. So if you have a specific crosstab or web tool that you want to look at, something you want to specifically dive deeper in, we're here. We can all help. Everybody can participate. And I think we all have something to learn. There's our expert panel. And today we'll obviously be hearing from Mary. There's also, we're starting something new. So this is new for everybody. We are really trying to engage and promote some accessibility, and we're going to try to use social media to do that on some level. And I'm hoping that, I think, look, we have almost 60 people here today. So I don't know who has Facebook. I don't know who operates their organization's Facebook. I don't know any of that. But what I would like to do is to have everybody get out your phone if you don't already have it. I know everybody puts it away when we're Zooming. No multitasking happens here, right? But take your phone, log in to Facebook, find EPIS on Facebook. The first Wednesday webinar is there, and it's always advertised that Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday prior to that, the week we're holding it. And I noticed last month there was no interactions. We had no likes, no anything. So I thought, we're going to start today to take out your Facebook and see if you can find EPIS on your Facebook, which shouldn't be too big of a struggle. You just search EPIS, it has public service, state college, and if you can click on that, and you'll see we'll be taking a deep dive into the PAYS web tool and your questions and experiences at today's First Wednesday webinar. It has the link for people to register, and then it also has our logo. So if you can like, comment, share, if you're here, post that you're watching it live, hashtag live, that we know you're here. There'll be a little more activity. It'll help the algorithm. Maybe you'll see things that are on this page that are also beneficial to you. So we're really trying to increase our social media presence to make this information available, and you can share it, whatever you're comfortable doing. But we're going to try to do this, every Wednesday that we have a webinar. We'll go in and like it, share it, let us know if you're here live. Or if you watch it replayed, whenever Sophia sends out the link and somebody is available to watch it in your agency, maybe they'll watch it as a replay so they can comment then also. So it's just something we're going to try, new and happening, trying to jump on board and get everybody engaged. And I think that's all probably before we want to let Mary take over and go into the web tool overview. And I'm going to let you take it away, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome everyone. If you went to our last Wednesday, first Wednesdays at 1, we did a really kind of a big picture overview. We talked about the PAYS web tool. We talked about kind of its history, all of the things that does, all of the background information. And the last part of that presentation, we spent actually in the tool. And today I'm going to skip all of the PowerPoint, all of that introduction, and really just kind of spend a lot of time just hanging out in the tool. So the web tool itself, some people find it a little intimidating. So honestly, a lot of people find data intimidating. And the web tool itself should not be that. Yes, it might be new to you, but really what I'm encouraging you to do is just to go around and just kind of play around and click around and just see what you can find. And we'll talk about different ways that you can do that and how you can use the different tools. But then we'll also go through some examples. So I am going to share my screen in just a bit. I'm going to show you, I'll do like a really quick overview of all the tools. And in the meantime, I encourage all of you, I just looked at the chat, and we have a really amazing diversity of data users here. So I see a lot of data users from school districts. I see some from different prevention communities and coalitions. I see a lot of different roles here. So I task all of you with thinking about, what is the perspective you are bringing with you when you come to the tool? What is the question, or one of the questions you would like to ask of the tool? What are you hoping to get from it, and how are you hoping to use the data? And maybe this is a way you've used the tool in the past before. Maybe this is a way you would like to use the tool, but you just haven't been able to do so yet. So I would love to take some really specific examples and use those as we walk through this together. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Oh, okay. I'll have to wait till someone is done sharing. Oh, thank you. Okay. So is everyone seeing my screen? Yeah, okay. So something very exciting happened yesterday. We sent out the URLs, the links to superintendents for them to set their passwords to be able to access the web tool and look at their specific district level data. This is the first year we've offered password protected district level data access, and we're very excited about it. So in celebration of that, I want to kind of lead with just sort of how you might, if you were a superintendent, how you might go about logging in to the platform. I have created kind of a special user account for myself that points, today I will also be the superintendent of any town school district. And this is just a generic school district that I'll be using as an example. So let's say I am that superintendent. I go to the PAYS web tool, which you can use going to this link, or you can just Google PAYS web tool and it will pop up right up front. I'm a superintendent, so I know that if I can just log in over here, I can have access to that data. So I'm gonna log in to this account. And I'm in. It doesn't look like it, but I am in, and you'll be able to see my district level data, districts level data for any town school districts later. If you are anyone else besides a superintendent on this call, you don't have a login yet, you can just go and look at county and state level data, but your superintendent could actually name you as an authorized data user. So now that I am logged in, if I am the superintendent logged in, if I go to admin, you can see here that your superintendent could actually create a new user. And this, your superintendent could either name you as a district administrator, which means you could create your own users, or more often the superintendent might just say, you know what, I want you to be able to use the data, but I don't want you to be able to share it. So the process for creating a new district user is incredibly simple, and it is something that we would encourage superintendents to do. Managing the users for an account like this can be a lot of work, and we all know superintendents already have a lot of work on their plates. We recommend that every district create at least one additional district user, data user to kind of help them to manage this process. So, okay, now we'll get past that and kind of focus on what you are all here for, is just to kind of dive into the tool. So if you're brand new to the tool, I would encourage you to just kind of get to know it. There are some really great links to guides, to a portal with information. Getting started is a great place to start. It gives you a little bit of background about each of the different tools. The bread and the butter of this tool are these three tabs in the middle: categories, variables, and crosstabs. These each serve different purposes. So the categories tool is where you would go to look at a category of information, so more of a broad topic for a specific audience. So for example, right now I'm looking at access and willingness to use. I'm looking at data for these three questions, and I'm looking for a very specific population where I'm looking at all grades combined, which would be kind of a middle school, high school average, and I'm looking at all genders, so anyone marking male, female, or other. This is if you were, for example, let's say you were a middle school counselor and you were really just focused on your 8th graders. The category tool is where you could take a look at, and let's say if I'm a middle school counselor, I'm really worried about bullying and internet safety. I just want to focus on 8th graders. This is where I would focus on just that specific population of students for multiple questions. You can see here we've got 5 questions, but I'm just looking at these for 8th graders. You can see that because I have selected district and because I am logged in as Anytown School District, the only district I have access to is actually Anytown School District. It's not going to show me any others. That is the data that I'm looking at. You can see we have data for the past 3 administrations, so 2017, 2019, 2021, and a state diamond. This is actually one of my favorite features of the web tool because this is special just to the web tool. The profile report, if you've ever looked at a profile report, you will remember that it only contains the latest year's data for state comparison. So you just have that one diamond to see, okay, how do we stack up against the state this year? The web tool allows you to look at the exact same data that are in the profile report, mostly grouped by the same type of, in the same type of categories. However, you can see how you stack up relative to the state over a number of administrations. So at Anytown School District, I can look at our data over the past 3 administrations and say, oh, well, this is really interesting. It looks like we're even with or above the state for at least in 2017 and 2019 and 2021. That was a year where this my district in particular surpassed the state by quite a bit for each of these measurements. However, this area, the fourth from the left or the second from the right, adults at your school stop bullying when they hear it or a student tells them about it. This is one area where we're far lower than the state, which is actually not where we want to be. This is one of those kind of reverse coded items where we would actually want to be above the state for this particular one. So let's say in Anytown School District, I say, well, this is really interesting, but I wonder how we stack up against my county. You know, there are a lot of districts in the county, and I want to see how we stack up kind of at a more regional level. So I would go over here and just toggle to county. And Anytown School District, let's say I am in Columbia County. And this is, again, a hypothetical district. I could look and say, oh, well, this is interesting. Actually, the rest of the county is really similar to this state. So in comparison, maybe this is an area where we are unique within our county, and this might be an area in which we really do need to focus on this. But I say, well, you know what? Let's see Columbia County. Well, I wonder how we're doing to a neighboring county or another county anywhere in the state that kind of has a similar demographic or a kind of a similar population to your county. You could take a look at any other county and say, oh, okay, yeah, that is pretty similar. It does actually look like we're a little bit of an outlier when it comes to this topic, not only in relation to the state, but in relation to our county, in relation to another county that's really similar. And maybe this would be a little bit of a red flag for me in this district to just say, you know what, maybe this is an area of focus for our 8th graders. So again, a category is where you're looking at a bigger topic, a bigger category for a more narrow population. And again, you could continue to drill down for this. So let's say at the county level, this is all grades combined, and you say, you know what, it would be interesting to look at this to see how our 12th graders fare compared to our 10th graders, compared to 8th graders, and then compared to 6th graders. And actually, as I scroll through these, I see that actually most of these are really comparable to the state for all years, except for this particular county, Bedford County, their bullying data is actually better than the state, or they have lower bullying rates. They have higher percentages of students who say that adults in their school would stop bullying. And so maybe if I were this county, if I were a prevention specialist within this county, I would actually go to talk to my middle schools and saying, what are you doing? Because something appears to be working here. Because you do appear to be having a lot of success, especially for this 8th grade. What's going on? What programs are you using? What are some best practices that you're using and applying? So If you scroll down below the chart, you will see these data are presented in a table format, which gives you a couple of options. If you're just a table person, I am actually a table person. I love looking at data in tables. It's really fun. You could go ahead and just click this button and export this data. And it will pop it up as a CSV. It with really nice labeling. Let's say you did want to compare like 3 counties. You could export those tables for the 3 counties, just paste the data side by side, and be able to create a really cool dynamic table that showed a lot of really neat comparisons, and even create your own charts or graphs from those. But let's say again, I am this middle school counselor, and I want to kind of learn more about this inappropriate internet contact. I don't want to look at, I just want to study this one specific question or this one specific variable in more depth. This, if you click on any of these, it will take you to the variables page. And the variables page is where you look at one item from a bigger audience. So again, categories is a bigger topic for a smaller audience, and variables is a very narrow topic for a bigger audience, just kind of the flip of that. So here it's popped me to the variables tool, and it's already pre-populated this for me, which is really amazing. So I'm looking at Bedford County data, and I'm looking at it by grade. So here I'm looking at one item for inappropriate internet contact, and I'm looking at data for all grades, so 6th, 8th, 10th, 12th, and all grades combined. So this is where I would be able to kind of study that one thing and just take a look at the data over the past 3 administrations, how the data have changed over time. And then let's say I want to go ahead and look at that data by gender as well. I could toggle to gender and be able to see data for female students, male students, and other students. Other, this is the first year that we've included other as a gender option. We do have suppression rules applied, so there must be at least 25 students marking other for you to see data in that category. So if you are a really small district, or if you're a very small county, you may or may not see other here. And then likewise, if you're a very small district or a small county, we could honestly even suppress female or male students. You have to have at least 25 in each of these categories to be able to show data for that specific item. The same thing goes, you can export this data and create your own data tables, etc. And then if you want to go back to categories, you just click this button. If you're ever curious about how these percentages equate to actual numbers of students, you could just go to the participation table, and it's going to tell you for whatever you're looking at, whether it be county, school district, etc., the number of students per grade, so that you can kind of figure out what those ends might be. The crosstabs tool is the last tool, and then again, we're going to open it up for examples. The crosstabs tool is really powerful. This is where you can look at any question by any question and see where they connect. So if you were ever curious about, cyberbullying's relationship, how that might influence or relate to suicide ideation, this is where you could look at that. If you are curious about how family conflict may or may not impact student academic grades, this is where you could do that. So what we're doing here, or what we're looking at here, you do see there's a question 1 and a question 2. We do include filters, which are filtered by our categories. So if you get comfortable in a category, just continue to start looking at that. And then a question 2 also has a filter. So we often get a question or a very common question or concern or a bit of confusion is, well, which question do you put in which one? And order does matter. So I'd like to say that your question 1 is your what. What do you want to study? And let's say I want to study suicide ideation. And the who is the who you want to study. So question 2, is the who. So that's who I want to study. I want to study the who in my mind. I'm imagining students who have been bullied in the past year. So what I want to know what students who have been bullied, how they feel about suicide ideation or where they stand there. So for me, it is easier to start with question 2, because for me, I'm a people person. people connections is like what drives me in this work. So my who is always top of mind for me. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in first. So again, I'm going to do bullying and internet safety. I'm going to do cyberbullying. So in my mind, I'm specifically my who is students, whether they've been cyberbullied or not. And again, for my what is, let's see, sorry, suicide risk. And then I'm going to do seriously considered attempting suicide. And I can see it pops up this beautiful table, which if I wanted to, I could just copy this and paste it into Excel or into any type of document. And then, so once I get them plugged in, it's really important to kind of find the 100 and read down. So it's important to make sure you're interpreting this correctly. So for example, I'm going to find the 100 here of students who said no. So that's my who here. Of students who said no, 11.9 or no, they have not been texted or bullied through cyberbullying, I'm sorry, in the past 12 months. Of the students who said big no, like no way. Of those students, still nearly 12% said that they had seriously considered suicide. When students said no, I haven't been cyberbullied, which means, you know, yeah, they probably think they have been a little bit. The suicide consideration goes up to 21.5. Of students who said, yes, yeah, I have been cyberbullied in the past 12 months, suicide consideration goes up to 37.9. And of students, the who is yes, big yes, oh yes, I have been cyberbullied in the past 12 months. Over half of those students have seriously considered suicide in the past 12 months. If you want, you can, I encourage, again, I'm just encouraging, just clicking the heck out of everything. Click it, flip it, reverse the question, just have fun with it and just start to get a handle on just kind of how you look at this. So let's go ahead and reverse these items. So now my who, in my mind, I'm picturing these are students who either have considered suicide or haven't. That's my who. And then what I want, the what now is have they been bullied? So the interpretation is a lot different. It's similar, but different. So of students, again, I'm going to find the 100 and read down. Of students who said, yes, I have seriously considered suicide in the past year. Of those students, 10.7% of those students said they had been cyberbullied in the past year, or they answered big yes. So I guess between the little yes and the big yes, we're looking at probably like 32% of students. Of students who said, no, I haven't seriously considered suicide, the percent of students who'd been cyberbullied is much lower, but it's still like 10%. So these are two different data stories, right? Depending on the who is and depending on the what is. And being able to tell that data story is correctly is really important. And then two, just from looking at the data these two ways, I feel like because I am more interested in my who, the students who I want to help or students who are being bullied, the original order of these is kind of what I want to go for. And I'm going to just interpret on that way. So that was my really quick kind of recap of what we talked about last time. And I would love to, oh, and I see there's already questions in the chat. This is amazing. I would love to take some of these examples. So let's see, let me scroll through. Give me just a moment.
Mary, we had a question from Kelly, who has to jump off to another meeting. And she was wondering if you could talk a little bit about big no and little no again.
Oh, yes, I would be happy to. We use this scale a lot. And this is one of the original scales that came from the first Communities That Care survey at the University of Washington, SDRG, and it feeds into the kind of that CTC model. So students are informed they're kind of given some instruction about this. The big no means like no, absolutely not, no way. The little no is more of like a no, not really. The little yes is more of a yeah, I guess. And a big yes is yes, definitely. And actually, some states have actually switched to these actual interpretations. to be more explicit to students. So for example, in Utah, the survey, instead of big yes, they say definitely yes. For big no, they say definitely no. I think the little yes is somewhat yes, and the little no is somewhat no. But this is really how they boil out. So I think honestly, adding the emphasis does everything. So in your mind, if you can scream yes, like you know exactly what that means, or like no, you know exactly what that means too. And then the little no and the little no are more of like a meh, like a yeah, no, or a kind of a lowercase yes. I hope that helps.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, yes. There was a question. Oh, so someone asked, when we're looking at 8th grade data, is that 8th grade cohort data? That's a very interesting question. It is possible to study a cohort, but you're going to need to follow those students. You're going to need to kind of do your own work for that. So I think the best way to perhaps study a cohort effect, and let me just say, I would actually caution against that. Because this is an anonymous survey, we do not know if we have the same 8th graders or the same cohort of students participating in each administration. You may or may not be following that group. So if you are a district, if you are a county where your participation is always like 95%, then yeah, maybe this would be actually real. And you don't have a lot of students. You don't have a lot of transitions and mobility in your district. Your students, once they're in the school, they stay in the school. You don't get a lot of new students. Then yeah, you could probably study that with interest. But if you are a district or a county where honestly, you're maybe lucky to get 60 or 70%, you have a lot of transition in and out, you're not actually looking at the same grade of students or the same cohort of students. You're looking at pretty different groups of students each time. And I would discourage against that. But let's say you are, let's say actually in any town school district, yeah, we get 95 to 100% of students surveyed every year. Looking at the past 3 years, again, you just kind of have to follow a little bit. You could say, okay, in 2017, okay, let's start in 2021. In 2021, these 12th graders were, in 2019, they were 10th graders. And then in 2017, these were 8th graders. So you would have to do that. I suppose probably a better way without kind of hurting your brain would be just to export the CSV and to kind of remove anything except maybe that one cohort of kids to be able to kind of follow them along. So you can do that again, exercising caution in terms of interpretation and keeping your participation into account, but that could be done. Let's see, sorry. Oh, and Phyllis, it looks like you already answered that question anyway, apologies. Let's see, someone said, Kelly Fritzen said they've used it to speak to gambling and correlations to mental health. Oh, that is a great example. Let's use that. Actually, I'm not seeing any other examples. So while we look at this gambling versus mental health, I would love to get another example in the chat. So let's go ahead and just look at this from all perspectives. So let's look at gambling and mental health with each of these 3 tools. So gambling is one of the categories we use. Again, I don't know what county or area Kelly is from, but we'll go ahead and just say they're from Bedford. Again, for gambling, we have four questions here. Any gambling in someone's lifetime, any gambling in the past 30 days. Did the student feel a need to bet more and more money? So kind of more of a compulsion to gamble, or lied about gambling habits, which is also just kind of linked to maybe a little bit of gambling addiction. So from this county, I could say, okay, let's study all grades combined. Let's look at for these categories, how these data compare in 12th grade, in 8th grade, and then for 6th grade. And again, you could export those data and create your own really cool tables. And then if you wanted to look at mental health, you would have to go ahead and select a different category, mental health or suicide risk. And again, you would need to look at it one at a time in the category view, but you would see everything. If you, again, are a table person, it is super easy to just kind of keep hitting this export data, create your own really dynamic, really interesting tables if you have that familiarity. Again, if you wanted to kind of go look at one topic in more detail, you could, for example, follow self-harm and be able to see how self-harm for the county compared across all of your grades and all grades combined, and then how your data were in relation to the state. So looking at this, it's interesting to see 10th and 12th grade for this particular county. This would be a red flag to me. So anytime you're scanning across the data and see, okay, our 6th graders, yes, self-harm has increased over time, but it's always been lower than the state. In 8th grade, yeah, we saw a big jump in self-harm, but we're still lower than the state. And maybe when I looked at 10th and 12th grade, I would say, oh, wow, we're usually even with the state here. But we not only had a really big jump in self-harm for 10th graders and 12th graders, but now we're above the state. So that would be anytime you see, it's kind of like one of those things that's not like the other, the old Sesame Street thing. Two of these things are not like the other. And so this 10th grade jump with a higher than the state and this 12th grade jump higher than the state, these would be those are not like the others. That might be an area where I would say, okay, I'm going to flag that and kind of come back to that later. And you could say, oh, okay, well, that's interesting to look at the 10th graders. Let's see, what about gender? Like, what do we see when we look at this issue by gender? And then actually, this is interesting too. So from that perspective, I can say, okay, our 10th and our 12th graders are really stumbling here. This is a problem. But by gender, it's definitely female students and students who marked other. So maybe in a population that can help you target in. So in a high school, maybe you would not just target all 10th and 12th graders. You would really specifically look for female students or kind of target a different population by gender to kind of approach this specific issue. So these are great examples for the category and variables tool, how you could dive in for gambling separately or mental health. But I know exactly what Kelly wants to see, and she wants to see where the connection of these are, right? So we would go to the crosstabs tool. And I think this could actually be really interesting. Who is your question to and what is your question one? I think these would be really interesting to study flip-flop. So let's go ahead and start with, let's say our students who are struggling with mental health. And I'm gonna find that. And let's say, students in the past 12 months, have you felt depressed or sad most days, even if you felt okay sometimes? So this is more of a measurement of just kind of extended depression or mental health problems. So that's my who. I'm imagining students who are really struggling with mental health in this past year. And my what is going to be, do they gamble? Because of this mental health issue, are they turning to gambling for that? And so let's look at like past 30-day gambling. So have you gambled or bet for money in the past 30 days, which is a simple yes, no. So again, I've got my 2 questions plugged in, and now I'm going to interpret the right way, which is finding the 100 and reading down. So of students who said big no, like no way, in the past 12 months, I've felt depressed or sad most days. I've been really great mood. I'm really happy. I haven't struggled with that at all. Of those students, 4.8% said that they had gambled for money within the past 30 days. Of students who said little no, so they may perhaps mostly haven't, but have just a little bit, have felt depressed or sad most days, it goes up to 6.4. And then of students who said little yes, like, yeah, I have felt that way in the past 12 months, it goes up to 6.5% of those students have gambled in the past 30 days. And then of students who said big yes, oh yes, I have felt that way in the past 12 months, 8.4% of those students have indicated gambling within the last 30 days. So from my researcher's perspective, it's really important to know that what you're seeing here in the crosstab table is not, it's a correlation, not a causation. So there could be any number of factors at play, depressed, and then also what makes them gamble. So we can't from these data look and say explicitly students who are depressed, that causes them to gamble. We can say that there is a relationship here. I would say it is an interesting relationship because it does gradually increase with students sort of increasing levels of feeling depressed. But it's not, honestly, it's not like it's a knock out of the park. It's not 4.8 compared to like 50% like we saw when in terms of the relationship with cyberbullying, but there does appear to be a relationship here. And this could be something interesting to explore. That was at the state level, but you could explore it and say, okay, is there actually here, there's a little bit of a bigger correlation, for example, in Bedford County. Or you could say, okay, is there a stronger correlation in any particular county or for any particular gender type? So this was interesting. And let's go ahead and let's reverse these questions and see what happens when our who and our what are different. So now our who are students who either have or have not gambled. So just kind of let that marinate. That's a student in your mind who you're imagining. We're going to see what is happening with those students, what's going on with them when it comes to feeling depressed. So of students who said, yes, I have in the past 30 days have gambled or bet money for anything of value, and I'm going to find the 100 and read down. Of those students, it's pretty evenly spread. So we've got 20.3% of those students answered big yes, that they have felt depressed. 28.5% of those students said little yes, yeah, I have felt depressed in the past 30 days. And between the two, we're looking at like about 49%. 49%, so nearly half of students who have gambled or bet something for money in the past 30 days have felt some level of depression in the past 12 months. In contrast, of students who said, no, I haven't bet or gambled for money, those students are more likely to say big no, that they haven't felt depressed. They are also a little less likely to say big yes or little yes to feeling depressed. Not a huge difference, but some difference, right? So this is really similar to when we reverse these. Maybe this correlation isn't as high as some other crosstabs or relationships, but there is something here. And flipping the question shows you similar findings, but a little bit different. But the fact that you're seeing it in both when you flip it show that there is a relationship. Another thing that can bolster your support for looking at a crosstab and interpreting it correctly is if other research sort of support this type of relationship. And two, if you see this consistently year after year. So that's another thing to do. Maybe you could say, I thought this was actually the more interesting. This stair step seemed more, I could wrap my brain around this a little bit more. But let's say at the state level, that's the relationship we see in 2021. Let's see, do we see the same relationship in 2019? Oh, shoot, it's making me redo all the things. Oh, shoot. Okay. Well, drat. It probably did. I want to go on to another example, but it probably did. So if you find, I would encourage you to, if you find something that you say, oh, that is very interesting, dig deeper. Just like follow the rabbit down the hole and just look at the data by 2019, by 2017, by 2015, by 2013, and see if that trend is consistent across those years, or maybe the trend has grown. Maybe it's become more extreme over time or less extreme, and really kind of just study, just really embrace just kind of studying it. Let's see. Okay, I think we might have time for one more example, and then if there are other questions, maybe before that, are there any other questions Sophia or Elise, that you've seen in the chat that I need
There
to?
are, there's three you can pick. We have
Okay.
mental health concerns and marijuana use, depression and vaping, and depression and inappropriate sexual contact on the internet.
Oh my goodness, those are all really good.
I know. That's why I left it to you to pick, because they're all good.
I was going to tell you, I was going to put it on you, Elise. Which do you think? Give me your tiebreaker.
How about, I think that the mental health concerns and marijuana use are probably
Okay,
a good one that we can maybe look at some different mental health ones.
that sounds great. Let's do that for sure. So let's say first who are students who have used marijuana in the past 30 days. And that's, we consider marijuana to be an early initiation and higher prevalence drug. So let's see. So I've got my who are, again, 30-day marijuana users. And then my what is going to be mental health concerns. And, oh, I don't know why it only shows us that one. Let me use suicide risk and see if we can get more here. Oh, it looks like some of them might turn in here. Okay, sorry. Okay. So our who are marijuana users, whether they've used 0 times or any frequency of times. Word of note, or kind of another bit of caution, you can only add things when you're going down to 100. So I couldn't, for example, add these percentages. This would not give me anything. So right now I can only interpret down. So for this, I can say, of students who said that they have not used marijuana in the past 30 days, of those students, 14.1% said they have seriously considered suicide in the past year. Of students who said 1 to 2 occasions, we're looking at like nearly 1 in 3. 3 to 5 occasions, 37. 6 to 9, 43%. 10 to 19, it goes down to about 40%. 20 to 39, it goes down to 39.4, and then 40 plus occasions, it goes up to 40%. So one word of note, you're not always going to see this really nice, neat increase. We want to, and when we don't see it, it's really easy to say, well, these data are bogus. This is not right. That is not true. You have to kind of start thinking about it. In terms of, well, maybe in terms of how students are responding to the questionnaire, maybe the students who are using 40 plus times are more likely to say, oh, you know what, I use over 1 time a day in the past 30 days. Maybe these are just honestly fewer students are less likely to be marking these items. These are still very high occasions, and also you've got a smaller number of students who are using this frequently. And so there are things at play when things don't kind of gradually increase. But one thing is really clear is that there is a very different experience between students who aren't using marijuana when it comes to suicide ideation and all of those who are. Whether they're using 1 to 2 times to 40 times, those are a really similar percentage of them are struggling with mental health. So you could say even just one or 2 times, that's still enough to kind of cause that impact. But students who are consistently using marijuana, oh my gosh, are they struggling? But in honestly a comparable way to other use. So I think oftentimes our perception for substance use is that the frequency is so much more important when it comes to the impact. And these data show that's not always the case. So let's flip these and see what this looks like. So now who are students who either are considering suicide or have in the past year or have not. Of students who said, yes, I have seriously considered suicide in the past year, 78.9% of them said that they have not used marijuana in the past 30 days. Now, since I have 100 here, I could actually add this with this, with this, with this, with this, and with this, and be able to say, okay, of students who said they're seriously considering suicide, 78.9 said they hadn't used marijuana, And if I add these up, I would say, what would that be? Like 21% said that they have. You can only add when that 100 is there and when you're adding towards that 100. And likewise, you could group these. You could say, you could add together 1 to 5, and then add together 6 to 19, and add together 20 to 40 plus. As long as there's that 100 there, you can add towards that to kind of, again, present your data story, how it makes the most sense. This right here, I would hesitate to, like, publish these numbers exactly as they are in like a parent handout or something like that. Oftentimes, if you can do the math for your user group a little bit more and kind of get it in a more palatable, like either or format, that can actually be really helpful to kind of capturing their attention and making sure that they understand what the interpretation is. And likewise, you can see similar to that other one, it doesn't necessarily go in like this really big stair step. So of students who have seriously considered suicide, there's not a really tremendous pattern here. Actually, of those students, because this is a bigger group, students are just simply more likely to not be super users. Students are more likely to just be using a couple times. It's really rare that or more rare that you have students who are using at these really high frequency levels. So I'm not surprised that the highest of all of these is 1 to 2 occasions. That's just because you've got more students in that pot. But let's look at the data compared to no. Of students who said, no, I haven't considered suicide in the past year, those students are more likely to not be users. And they're more likely to be, or less likely to be using at these really high frequencies. Still the highest for them of the students who said no, and they're not considering suicide. If they're going to be using, it's going to be at a pretty low level, like 1 to 5 occasions in the past year, or in the past month, excuse me. But yeah, there's a really interesting correlation here. And again, the who, if you can just wrap your brain around that who is, and just really visualize, if you're not a data person, just visualize that student in your mind and interpret the data that way, that can really help. So these are actually both really interesting interpretations. If this were my analysis, I would consider actually using both of these. I think they both show a strong relationship either between someone who's depressed and who is using marijuana, and then someone who is using marijuana who is depressed. Okay, that was a really great example. Are there any just questions about the tool? Maybe not things that we could test together, but just questions before at least how much time do you need to kind of wrap things up?
Probably just 5. You probably have 5 more minutes.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah. All right, so are there any questions? If not, I'm going to try one of those other examples.
Doesn't look like there's any in the chat.
Okay, so a really nice, I really like that someone said mental health and vaping. And this is another really way that you can, a cool way to just play with the tool is, I've already done the hard work of kind of plugging these things in. I already know that this data relationship of a substance use with mental health already shows some really interesting correlations. Maybe I'm coming from this, again, I'm following my curiosity, coming from this from the perspective of, I wonder if the same relationship exists for vaping. Do you think? Like maybe? Well, I'm already here and I have time. How about I just change one of these items and see if the same relationship exists? So let's go ahead and keep the suicide risk. Let's go ahead and change this, the type of substance that we're using. Let's change this to, excuse me, vaping substances. Oh, wait, tobacco and vaping lifetime 30 days. And let's do, let's do this one. Okay. Again, I'm going to find the one how to read down. You'll see that the vaping questions are just asked in a different way than the marijuana questions. So it's more about just kind of like how often in a day versus in the past 30 days versus kind of a number of occasions. But we can see that of students who said they have never used an electronic vapor device, within the past 30 days. Of those students who said never, still 12.8% of those students said that they had seriously considered suicide in the past 30 days. Of students who said that they had used a vaping device once or twice, it goes up to about 1 in 4. Once or twice, I'm sorry, that's once or twice per month. Once or twice per week, it goes up to 33.9. About once a day, it goes up to 29.9, or I guess down to 29.9. And then students who are vaping more than once a day are definitely more likely to have considered suicide in the past year. So this is really interesting. Let's go ahead and again, flip those questions. So now my who is students who either have or have not seriously considered suicide. Of students who said yes, I have seriously considered suicide in the past year, 64, a majority of them have not used a vaping device, but 15.2% have used in the past month, 5.9 have used once or twice per week, 2.7 have used about once a day. Oh, this is really interesting. 12.2% have used more than once a day. That's actually really interesting that you've got either students who are just using occasionally, or the other big user group of students who are using very often, more than once a day, versus students who said, no, I haven't seriously considered suicide in the past year. 84.7% of those students had never used a vaping device, which I think honestly, this is really pretty low given I think this is a testament to a lot of students are vaping, whether they're high risk for other behaviors or not necessarily. And then, yeah, students who said no are more likely to honestly just be using once or twice. These again are ones that you could add these up so that you could simply say of students who are considering suicide, 64% said never, 36% said they had used at least once in the past month. Because I have that 100, I can add these, interpreting them correctly. So again, another great example of whoever your who is. This is an interesting comparison. This is an interesting analysis, whether you're comparing students who either have or have not vaped, or you're talking your who is students who either are or are not considering suicide. So it would be up to you which direction you would want to interpret. So thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Elise. I appreciate your questions. I hope you feel more confident in just diving in. Like really, you could see I'm just sometimes just pick things willy-nilly, or if you get stuck on a topic where you see an interesting relationship, just keep plugging in different substances. This would be interesting to see how this pans out for inhalants, how this pans out for alcohol, how this pans out for heavier drugs like methamphetamine. Just kind of go for it and really just kind of dive in and have fun.
Thank you, Mary.
Yes, let me stop my share.
Okay, and then I will share my screen and we can wrap up on a timely fashion. A lot of this is just reminders, except for one thing. So we all know PEIS guide is live. Make sure you utilize it. It's there for your liking. Here's the upcoming topics. If you need to submit a question, or if you have a suggestion for any upcoming webinars, please share that with us. We would love to have your input. I mean, there was, I think, almost approaching 70 people on the webinar today, which I think is a wonderful population, good cross-section of individuals. So if you have any suggestions, please let us know. Call to actions today, reach out to your superintendent. And they, as Mary said, they have gotten their tool and should be able to access that. You can familiarize yourself with the web tool, and then join us for the October webinar. So those of you who had more questions, who want to even dive deeper, Mary won't be joining us, but Kelsey will. Kelsey also is with Bach Harrison, and we're going to have, if you can see there's going to be 4 events. We're not going to have our traditional first Wednesday webinar. We're going to replace it with these 4 opportunities for anybody, school personnel, anybody who wants to dive into the data. It's almost going to be like today with a little more hands-on. What questions do you have? What do you want to bring to the table? What do you want to learn about? how can you utilize this tool in the best possible way for your purposes, for your agency, your district, whatever is available. And those interactive sessions are on the EPIS page. You can sign up with registration up until the minute of the webinar, of the Zoom. It really is going to be very casual sign up, just to sign up to put it in your calendar, basically. So we have 4 days in October, and we'll be sending that out for everybody. You can share that information with anybody whom you think would benefit from that information. The video library is still there and accessible. The YouTube channel has a lot of resources. And that's it. I don't think do we have any questions? There we go. Sophia. Sophia already put in the survey at the end of the webinar. So please take time to do that. We really do value all of your input as to what we can do to make things better, make things more effective, so you can use them and the information that is available, because there is a lot of information. Follow us on social media. Thank you to those who did like and commented that they were watching live. That was great. It was good to see that the last one had not even 1 like, and we do have now, I think, 10 and some comments. So that's something that we are going to look at doing and improving in the next year, to making sure that we have that little bit of a social media presence, so people can know that, you know, what the page is about, that is valuable. And that's where we're going to go with that. And I think that is probably it. Thank you very much for everything that you do. And we will not see you in October for the first Wednesday webinar. We're doing the extravaganza. There'll be 4 opportunities for individuals to come look at the tools, deep dive if you want to. If you have questions, bring them, and we'll be very interactive in those sessions. And then we will plan on seeing everybody in November for the first Wednesday webinar.